tonight, just one day after President Obama convened 3 separate meetings on Ferguson, brand new polling is released, finding most Americans are unhappy with the way the president has handled the case that has sparked angry debates and nationwide protests. Welcome to the Kelly File, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. This new Washington Post poll was taken in the days after a grand jury decided it would not indict police officer Darren Wilson in the death of 18-year-old Michael Brown. It finds Americans are dissatisfied with their chief executive's response. 52% say they disapprove of his handling of this issue. Just 39% approve. And it comes as the White House is fielding new questions about the possibility of a presidential visit to Ferguson. So far, the administration is not saying whether that will actually happen. Brit Hume is our Fox News senior political analyst. He joins me now. Brit, good to see you. And so the numbers are not good for the president on his handling of Ferguson. He seems to have found a way to displease both sides.
Yes, he has, Megyn, and I think part of the problem is that, the president convenes, for example, this big gathering at the White House today to discuss this issue. But he's really talking about one side of this issue, and that is what he clearly believes is the failure of police departments like Ferguson's across the country to deal skillfully and sensitively with African Americans to whom they must confront in their police work. And, you don't hear, there's nothing that this president has said since this happened, this terrible thing happened back in August and this young man was killed by a police officer, that suggests that that young man was in any way responsible for what happened to him. Mm-hmm. The emphasis between the president and especially his attorney general has been basically, we need to reform the police department. Right. We need to teach them. And look, there's absolutely nothing wrong with having a White House conference to discuss how the police across the country can deal more skillfully with the people that they must deal with every day. But when that is the entire emphasis of the president's analysis of this problem, then I think it leaves a bad taste in people's mouths.
Right. They have not, what this grand jury essentially told us is this officer committed no crime. And what we know from the evidence is that Michael Brown did commit a crime moments before his confrontation with Officer Wilson. And the eyewitness testimony was that then he committed another crime when he went for the cop's gun while the cop was trying to effect an arrest for the first crime Michael Brown had committed. And then he committed another crime when he ran away from an officer who was trying to effect an arrest, and on it went, but no one's discussing that.
That's not only that, when someone does bring that up, as happened this weekend on Meet the Press, for example, when Rich Lowry, editor of National Review, said that, the lesson of this is don't steal stuff. When a policeman tells you to do something or gives you a lawful order to do it, don't attack a police officer. The faces on his fellow panelists on that program were absolutely amazing. They looked as if they were astonished that anyone would say such a thing. That is a prevalent attitude among some people, and I think the president, I'm afraid, is one of them.
Just before we came to air, there was a headline over on a competitive cable channel, Brit, that reads as follows: "Can racial profiling ever end?" What are they talking about? How did this case get turned into all about racial profiling? There's zero evidence that Michael Brown was racially profiled.
Well, that has a widespread belief. Racial profiling, and indeed ethnic profiling of any kind, as we find in our national security policy related to Muslims, for example, or people traveling here from Muslim countries, is something that is forbidden in this land. And, some people might make the argument that, look, these people who are law enforcement who are wary of black suspects or black people that they are policing are simply playing the percentages because, like it or not, African Americans cause or carry out a disproportionate share of the crimes in this country, a share disproportionate to their size within the population. That's just a fact, and it's especially true in urban areas which are densely populated and have a heavy concentration of people of color. That's true.
But
now we all regret that. We wish it weren't so.
In this circumstance, Officer Wilson's deduction that Michael Brown might be the man. First, he got on him for walking in the middle of the street. That was the first confrontation. But then he put together that this is the person that they're talking about as having just committed a strong-arm robbery. And that deduction was correct. Michael Brown was the one who had just committed a strong-arm robbery. There's no racial profiling involved. He's the one who did it. So he's the one who got confronted by the cop.
Well, exactly right. And so I think that it is the fact that people around the country look at this and they look at these scenes of utter disorder, of looting and arson and the rest of it, destruction in the streets of Ferguson, and they think this is not being well handled really very much by anybody. They don't like the way the president has responded to it. They certainly don't think the authorities in Ferguson handled it very well. Why would you when you see scenes like the one on the right side of your screen right now? I mean, it looks like it's been badly done all the way around, and that's what I think people are reacting to. And if there's one surprise in that poll, Megyn, is that the approval of what the grand jury did in this was not stronger than it seems to have been. Maybe other polls will be different. We'll see.
It's amazing how the race relations break down when you look at this. When you look at the poll, let's look at that. Do you approve of the grand jury's decision not to charge Officer Wilson? 58% of whites approve, just 9% of African Americans, and there you see the racial divide underscored loud and clear. Brit, I got to run. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, you bet, Megyn.
Well, the Ferguson controversy also found its way to the floor of the U.S. House, where the congressional